Crimson Desert is absolute hype, and it is the best type of hype because this thing looks real, looks fun, and the best part, it looks like something that's not gonna disappoint us, boys. Because let's face it, there has been a lot of disappointment recently, but this, man, this has me more excited the last time I thought my dad's gonna say that he's proud of me. He didn't. Oh, but point still stands. It's pretty exciting, I have to say. I know we have also been covering Crimson Desert a lot in the past, like, 5 days non-stop pretty much, but there has been a lot of new and amazing news surrounding this thing. And now that a couple of people have selectively been given the demo test of the game, even more amazing stuff is coming out. And well, what can I say? It's looking really good.
And more Crimson Desert talk. In the build up to release, we had these 3 feature overview videos from Pearl Abyss that we broke down for different aspects of the game. And we didn't expect to get any new reveals or gameplay until maybe closer to the release. But a few clips came out that a lot of people have been talking about. There was a special Crimson Desert preview event, some changes to the gameplay from early demos to highlight new confirmations, and yes, misinformation to talk about. So let's get straight into it. First up, a quick highlight of the fun that was that preview event. So Crimson Desert held this early event for press and creators recently, I believe it was in LA, and so we got to see a few small bits of that event from people at the event posting about the experience. So you may have seen some creators in costumes at the event, that kind of thing. But the few details I have from that event seem to be these. Those that took part were able to play roughly 6 hours of the game, and it's very likely that the footage will be...
Yeah, that is insane. It's most likely that we're going to be able to see at least some of the footage when the embargo drops, because 100% all of the things that they actually got to experience is under some sort of embargo.
somewhat restricted in some way. I doubt we're going to see the full 6 hours. In my experience with different events doing this, they usually make different restrictions, like, oh, you can show these fights, but not those fights. You can show that section.
Oh, also true. And whenever they do that, it's typically curated. It's like pre-created footage of, but it's gonna be actual in-game footage if it's given to these people. We don't know yet fully what we're gonna see, but we're gonna see something.
But not that section. And other limits like the amount of footage you're allowed to show overall being restricted. But according to Solid FPS, a creator at the event, they're able to show their initial impressions when the event embargo lifts on March 4th. So at that time, it's very likely we're going to get a...
That's right around the time Marathon should be reaching literally 0 concurrent players. Nice, very close.
Load of new information, a load of new gameplay, and we might just be back to break everything down when that happens, if that's when it happens. But at very least, there's been a creator event, there's new footage coming, and we'll see it when the embargo lifts. Another thing to add that's outside of the preview event, which is still tied to it, is Digital Foundry and their special first look at this BlackSpace engine that the game is running.
Yeah, people commented on yesterday's video about this. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't go into this, but overall the consensus is pretty good. Pretty good. Can't run on a potato. Kind of close, I guess.
Running on, that's Pearl Abyss's engine, they're taking a clearer look at it. It's interesting because they were meant to be at a preview event but couldn't go, and so they worked this thing out with Pearl Abyss where they could get some of their kind of shots that they would take if they were at the event. They're not going to play the game in a normal way. They're going to go slow and look at the environment, check the settings, look at the numbers.
Oh wow, that looks pretty good. Now granted, this is completely not how real life functions. Not even close. But it does look pretty good. Wow, I'm honestly impressed.
Look at the numbers, that kind of thing. So if you want a kind of performance-focused look at the game before it launches, there's one out now on Digital Foundry's channel, so I do recommend it. Overall, it does just show us areas and things we've already seen, just from a different angle, or more like a precise look at some of the physics, the weather, the way the water's moving. Less gameplay, more about the world and how it's running. But yeah, that is realistic. Is interesting, and the fact that they've been able to show that a little bit early is also interesting. So go check it out. Now, in regards to all clips that have just sort of sprung up and people are talking about this week, one aspect of the game that seems pretty incredible is the physics and the way you can interact with the enemies of the world with it. An early example we saw from JTX Man, posted back in 2025, was the pole vaulting, where we can see this war banner here, as it were, being used to aim and attack and thrust at a target or use different combos.
Impale. Oh my god, you know what's my favorite meme in games? Like, for example, Fallout New Vegas, where you get the railroad spiker and just impale someone. Wait, was it New Vegas? Whatever. It was one of those games where you can just take something, throw it, and it's gonna impale something. Well, they definitely had the spears and the heads thing, but man, I really love it. But if you can take a flag and just chuck it at someone, and there you go, new wall decoration. Thank you, for free, even better. That's gonna get me hyped, okay? I love that. That is one of the most coolest things ever. As a man, you have to appreciate how much strength and everything it would probably take to impale someone with a throw and then pin him to a wall. Oh, that is so cool.
This appears to be kind of the spear weapon type that we've seen in more recent gameplay. In this old clip though, we see them slam it into a ground and then use it as a pogo stick, a movement option, giving you some vertical options to climb up with, maybe slam back down with, get higher up before doing a glide, that kind of thing. Pretty useful. But in the more recent gameplay, we see the spear type being used, special attack.
Actually, fun fact, boys, look at this.
Back down with.
Okay, look at this.
Giving you some.
Since it doesn't bend, it's not it's not contrasting energy and it's not releasing it. So the vault actually doesn't do anything. So this is technically wrong.
Vertical options,
but still very cool
to climb up with, maybe slam back down with, get higher up before doing a glide, that kind of thing. Pretty useful. But in the more recent gameplay, we see the spear type being used, special attacks like the multiple thrusts at once. Or hey, a very familiar move we just looked at here, where Cliff slams the spear into the ground, but instead of like pogo sticking up, he does it so he can kind of drop kick this enemy with more force. So it'll be interesting to see how spear-based movement has evolved.
Oh, that's a New World move.
Since that early version, will we still be able to use it for movement, or is it more based on like the length of the weapon we're holding? As maybe just a different like tool it has. Another more popular clip that was spread around a lot last week is this use of elements and how it can interact with the world with ice and water. So what they were doing was summoning elements and using it to interact with nature. In this case, they're using ice to collide with this water, the river, creating a kind of small physical object, an ice block that you can actually stand on. But these do have unique,
but not a lot. That's nice,
physics of their own. So as they stood on the edge of one of these, it toppled over, sending them straight into the water, which is pretty cool and mechanically impressive. But should limit how viable this concept is as using them for platforming. Maybe in some niche contexts though, maybe certain puzzles, maybe up in the abyss, they'll have us do this. This player also goes on to equip different kinds of arrows, so you've got a variety of options there in terms of ammo, but they use explosive arrows to decimate the ice and break them all apart in one shot. So this could be relevant as a mechanic in, say, an icy region where ice could be blocking your path.
Oh, this is pretty cool.
Then maybe use an explosive arrow to break it. Or maybe we can use those explosive arrows to destroy the environment in different ways.
This feels a little bit like Baldur's Gate 3.
As we'll talk about. But yes, let's dig into the whole destructible environment concept. How can we impact the world with elements and our options? One simple example we've seen is the physical force behind attacks, where you interact with someone and send them flying. We've seen the grapple used to attach to something to then swing through the air and slam down for a burst of damage. That force can apparently break terrain and environments too, like these barriers and boxes inside of a defended camp. We've also
we kind of expected this from even the most earliest previews, that there's a lot of random MacGuffins that you can just hit and they explode. I personally, this is a double-edged sword for me, because I like it when you can interact with the environment, but I don't like it when, you have this wheel here, you touch it and it just goes into splinters everywhere, okay? This is not the Shadow Slave novel, okay? When something gets hit, it doesn't explode into splinters always. It happens, though. So, I would like interactivity, the word that I can't pronounce currently. Fuck. In any case, I would like that, but you know, I don't want, oh, you touch something and it explodes. I want a relativistic approach to it. You know, you touch it slightly, it moves. You touch it a lot, it explodes. That's what I want to see games do. Because honestly, it for some reason, maybe it's because I'm super retarded, but it does take away from my experience when I lightly tap a battle and it just completely obliterates the universe.
Also seen how that grapple can interact with the world in like a physical way, not just attaching to a wall and that's it, but pulling on a tree, causing it to bend towards you, which maybe in this context gives us more momentum.
Yeah, this was one of the coolest things. I actually never talked about it. You're using the tree's physics.
For the fling, other stuff is shown, like hidden areas existing with puzzles, you know, secret rooms behind a bookshelf, that kind of fun thing. But simple concepts like breaking a barrier, like these weak wooden planks that were shot with an arrow, maybe you can just hit them, and then you can crawl into the room behind. Another example of destruction I saw was an early demo IGN put out, where they were doing this sort of siege on a fortress. The player climbs a wall and finds a usable cannon, which they then fire into this structure to completely destroy it. Other examples would be, say, when they're riding a dragon.
That also, by the way, looks pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. That cannon destruction does look on point, okay? Granted, it's really good. I just like it. I just look at it and I'm like, hell yeah, boys. And we also know that these watchtowers are destructible, because you had another instance where it was just a basic, like some kind of heavy attack that actually allowed you to destroy it.
And using it to rain fire down on this stone wall base, so they're not able to set anything on fire really, but every poor humanoid down there
it does look like it either just has an explosive animation or it actually like does interaction with the environment a little bit. I don't think we're gonna be able to Game of Thrones last season where, you know, nothing mattered because the show is fucking dead. You know, melt the stone fortress. But it does seem like they're trying to give it some kind of feel of impact, because when you watch this, it does, right? I'm not alone here. It does feel like there's something happening, even though probably nothing's really happening. It's just a really good, great illusion.
Get lit on fire. Another example is when this player uses, I think, an explosive arrow to fire into this tent, which dismantles the whole tent. Or the positive aspects of environmental interaction, like picking up a banner to plant it and then you show you've captured this place, ending the siege. Or shooting a lit arrow into a brazier to light it, so you're calling a signal.
Oh shit, will Rohan answer?
As it were. So I'd love to see how the elements interact with units, when and why.
The Riders of
detail,
Gondor,
maybe
baby.
in that embargo lift gameplay we see. I'm wondering how fire can be used to burn through terrain, like breaking down a wooden wall to create a new path inwards, cause chaos that way. It seems likely in this system, but yeah, hopefully more info on that soon. One feature I've not really seen much of is the ability to zoom in and really look at your character, right? We have seen in different footage people doing this, but this usually goes all.
Now, granted, boys, let me explain how absolutely hyped I am for this. You see this? You see everything that we have seen, which is technically, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, roughly nothing. There is so much more to this game. The story, the this, the that, the da-da-da-da-da-da. There's so many things. And just this that has been shown with the combat and different locations and interactions and blowing up of things, as long as they have an item system that's pretty fun, you know, I wouldn't necessarily like a Dark Souls-esque weapon system, item system, but we need a unique item system where upgrades and builds can be made. If they add just that on top of this, I think Crimson Desert is going to be already a success. Okay? I think it's already going to be a success. Without anything else. That would be massive.
All the way in, like first person. From everything we've seen from playing this game, I really don't think first person is going to be a viable or good idea, but it is something that appears to be a mechanic and one you can dabble with, so it'll be interesting to see if that's possible during actual combat. One other thing I want to highlight that came up in earlier footage is the stamina system. I believe it was Will Powers that talked about different inspirations for Crimson Desert, and I believe one of the games referenced was Breath of the Wild. And yeah, there's a lot of aspects at play here that are comparable. But maybe the most on the nose thing was the stamina wheel system, how it's like a wheel that fills up and drains and even wraps around itself as you progress it.
This is not even close to being unique to Zelda or whatever game you want to say. This has been a thing forever.
Which is very much Breath of the Wild. We've seen it draining in many contexts, attacks, climbing, jumping, all kinds of stuff. But in recent gameplay, it does seem like it's not draining on certain attacks, such as your basic attacks and combos don't seem to drain stamina.
Yes, I think this was confirmed that basic attacks don't actually drain it, that the stamina is just used for big hits.
We definitely see it drain on a special attack, special movement, things happen that drain stamina in combat. But why this is important is because it would greatly limit your ability to chain attacks and create combos, like limiting the player expression, if every single attack, even the basic ones, drains a lot of stamina. If you're able to freely attack and only drain stamina for, say, an imbued element attack, a special, or a big leap, a grapple, this would then lead to longer chains of attacks, but also giving you an option in combat all the time. So this is another thing that I'll be looking out for when that embargo lifts. The last thing I want to talk about is some questionable claims. Some claims from community members like this post here, where some of these things are simply incorrect, but these posts have had big viewership. I saw one that claimed the game's going to have no microtransactions that had over 1 million views on Twitter, and it was straight up wrong. Now, a lot of these claims come from different interviews, from, say, Will Powers, who did a lot of these. And
yeah, I really doubt that the people who made Black Desert, aka microtransaction hellscape, but still a good game, are not gonna put microtransactions into their single player game. Because it doesn't matter how big Crimson Desert is, the chances that it sells like 20 million copies a year one, which probably is roughly in their expectations what they would need to earn if they didn't put microtransactions, is insane. Obviously, they're gonna have it.
Problem with these longer form interviews is you might hear a sentence and then mishear it or misunderstand it, and people taking something that was said to new heights of beyond reason. So Will Powers is the PR and marketing director for Pearl Abyss. He's been a great source of information, and I've been very grateful that he's been doing these interviews for things to look at, listen to, and talk about for the game. But obviously people jump a bit far, unfortunately. First, one claim is that the game will not have any difficulty options, and that seems actually very...
I have also heard this. I thought that the developers said this at some point, though. I was pretty certain.
Very true. We've been told that the game has that open world challenge and progression, difficulty in a form. You got the 5 main regions of Pywell, each one their own distinct location and all that. And we're going to start in one of them, and then you can directly go to any of them within a reason. There will be some form of restriction though in the challenges you confront and when. So in the opening section, the areas will make sense in terms of difficulty, but if you were to go to a different region or a different location, you might find better equipped, more dangerous enemies that you're now dealing with a lot earlier than maybe quote unquote you should be. It's clear that they want to let you go where you want and when, but the order you choose...
Yeah, this seems like to be a little bit of that, you know, Elden Ring approach.
To do it.
Shadow of the Erdtree specifically expansion approach, if you want to compare it to something.
Might pose different levels of challenge. So not, say, hard mode, very hard mode, but, you know, self-inflicted challenge. Okay, so another big claim, like we just mentioned, is the game has no microtransactions of any kind, which to me is a very welcome concept, but it doesn't seem likely. Will Powers himself...
Yeah, again, it does not seem likely in the slightest. As far as I know, they haven't actually said anything about this, but again, I don't believe there's not going to be microtransactions, boys.
Replied to a post about this, clarifying that what he specifically said is that there will be no microtransactions at the launch of the game. So at the start, we won't have them. But based on that wording, it seems extreme.
That's also pretty smart. I will not say that necessarily good, but pretty smart. Listen, There are people who think that microtransactions in single-player games don't matter, and that's nice if you think like that. More power to you. But at the end of the day, there is a significant problem with a game that's single-player but has microtransactions. And that is the idea that you can never be truly sure that the game was not skewed in the direction that you want to buy microtransactions. That some kind of boss wasn't made too hard. That some kind of progression system wasn't made too slow. That some kind of something in the game was not made worse to force you into buying a microtransaction solution for the problem that they caused. And that is the problem with single-player microtransactions. In some cases, this is not a problem, by the way. But there are situations where it is. For example, Dragon's Dogma 2. Again, the best comparison, I think, to Crimson Desert is Dragon's Dogma 2, honestly. Dragon's Dogma 2, as a typical Capcom game, allowed you to pretty much almost buy anything in the game for money. And it was completely useless for the most part. Capcom, for example, is notoriously well known for selling literal power in games for ridiculous prices in some situations of an item that you can farm infinity amount in 5 minutes. For example, that's what Capcom does, okay? They will sell you anything even though it's farmable infinity in 5 minutes in the game, and that's intended. But we do not know what the microtransactions will look for Crimson Desert.
Extremely likely there will be microtransactions just in the future of the game. How, when, what, why, we don't know. But that's the situation. Here's another claim, that the game will be twice the size of Red Dead Redemption 2, and that you'll likely...
Isn't it supposed to be 81 or 91 square kilometers, which is supposed to be bigger than Red Dead Redemption?
Spend 5 times more time in Crimson Desert than you did in RDR2. Now at this point we are getting a bit silly with the claims. It was Luke Stevens, the guy who did the interview with Will Powers, where that information came from, who clarified. The quote was that the world is at least twice as big as the open world of Skyrim.
Oh yeah, Skyrim. We talked about this yesterday. There also were comparisons with Red Dead Redemption.
Larger than the map of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is why I've been saying in videos that they claimed it's twice as big as Skyrim.
Honestly, twice as big as Skyrim is completely fine by me. That is massive, by the way. That already is massive.
And larger than Red Dead, because that's what they said. The last claim here in this post is that you can choose from one of the 4 characters after a point of the game, which to me...
yes. But yesterday we heard that it's one of 3 characters. I thought it's one of 4 characters also. There's you, the main character, the big default one. Then there's an orc. And then there's supposed to be 2 more. One is supposed to be a woman with a rapier. And another one. I heard 4 characters, but as far as I know, like it's confirmed to have 3. So I'm not 100% sure on what's happening here. I would love to have 4 characters, though.
It's completely new information, because what we've been shown and told multiple times is that there are 3 playable characters. You got Cliff, the main protagonist, the guy you play as during most of the main story sections. And then I'm going to
And then you have objectively the only character you should play, the waifu.
Pronounce the names, Unka and Domain. We've seen during the UI of different gameplay sections, they're 3 names, and they're 3 separate skill trees as it were. And it's been said that you can play as the other 2 characters in basically all situations outside of key main story. So is there a secret 4th character not shown anywhere in the trailers or UI or anything? That would be new.
Yeah, I also thought that there's going to be a 4th one. Don't remember actually where I got that, but I guess that's how this happens.
News to me. But yeah, that's my recent news.
Well, I would love, though, to have a 4th character, not gonna lie. The more, the merrier, as always. Rage Gaming videos, 10 out of 10. Bye!